Girly Girl Bookworm. So today I have a May book haul for you. So May was a phenomenal month. It is currently May 31st. So basically I don't think I'll be finishing anything else off today. So I thought it would be a perfect time to film this and get it right out for you. So the one great thing is I haven't done a currently reading video in a while, so there's a lot of books in this that you haven't seen my thoughts on yet. So I'm really excited to just dive right in. I managed to fit in 16 books this month. I have one DNF and I have one that I'm technically currently reading. So I've got lots of things to talk about, so we're just going to jump right in. So the book that I am currently reading is Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone or Sorcerer's Stone or whatever. This version happens to be the Philosopher's Stone. This is the Hufflepuff edition. And I'm currently listening to this with the Harry Potter at home. I think you could either listen to it on Audible, or they have on their Pottermore, they have videos of celebrities reading the chapters. The first chapter was read by Daniel Radcliffe, so it's been really fun getting to listen to the story with this different element involved. Right now they are up to chapter 9, so that's as far as I am right now. So I don't know when I'll be done with this because the videos are kind of uploaded sporadically, and you only know that they're up when you get an email about it. So we'll see, but it's been really fun getting to dive back into this world. I'm hoping to watch the movie after I'm done listening, but so far it's been a lot of fun. Chapter 6 has been my favorite. Oh no, yeah. There's a chapter that was read by the cast of The Cursed Child, and they read it like a cast, and it's phenomenal. That one's my favorite. Let me know what your favorite is down below if you've been listening. My one DNF for the month, unfortunately, was The Farm by Joanne Ramos. I don't know if it's a hard DNF yet. I think I need to repick it up one more time and see if I can get through it. I thought this book was going to be more of a dystopian novel, and it's not really a dystopian novel. So it was really, really slow, and unfortunately I wasn't really liking it. It's about this woman, and she is kind of falling on her time. She just had a baby. She left her husband. She's living basically in not a homeless shelter, but kind of like a homeless shelter. She starts nannying for this woman because her aunt can't do it anymore, and then something else happens. Then she discovers this place where you can carry somebody else's child, and once you deliver the child, you get a lot of money. So she's like, I might as well do it. My family needs it, but it's very, I don't know, it's not done in the way that I expected it to be done. So unfortunately this one has been kind of a miss. I only got 80 pages in, and I just kind of had to put it to the side for now. So we'll start with the first book that I read this month, and that is Masterclass by Christina Dulcher. This is a dystopian novel, and I ended up giving this one 4.5 stars. This one was phenomenal, and it's an adult dystopian, which I found very fun because normally when I've read dystopian in the past, they've all been young adults, so it was interesting to see a dystopian through an adult's eyes. And in this world, basically everybody has a Q score, and the Qs get readjusted every month, and basically if you're a student or you're in the working class, you have a Q, and this Q kind of determines your kind of class and your rank in the world that they are in. And students get Qs, and basically they could be sent off to a state school. You could be, which is the yellow school, and basically if you end up there, the lowest rank, they pick you up and they basically never bring you back. Then there's the green school, which is the slightly better school, and then there's the silver school, and the silver school is the best school that you can be in. And our main character, she's a teacher. Her husband kind of has helped to create this system. She teaches in a silver school. Her daughter is in a silver school, but one of her other daughters is in the green school. And one day she ends up getting her score, and she ends up getting put into the yellow school. And it kind of really opens the mom's eyes to realizing how bad this world is. And it was a really fun journey to be on. Her grandmother kind of was why I docked it a 0.5 star, because I just kind of was tired of listening to her. I would zone out during her sessions Like, I would just, like, start skimming it because I wasn't interested. But phenomenal book. I'm really excited that I got this put on my radar because it was really, really good. Highly recommend this one. Then I buddy read with Kendra, and we read House of Salt and Sorrows by Erin A. Craig. She put this in her May TBR, and I was like, I need to read that too. Let me know when you're reading it. She's like, how about tomorrow? And I was like, perfect. So we picked it up, and this really satisfied a lot of the fantasy in me that I wanted. I've been craving fantasy and historical fiction like no other, and this one really just like fed my sweet tooth for it. And this is a 12 Dancing Princesses retelling, which I love the 12 Dancing Princesses story to begin with. But this one is about these 12 sisters. They're princesses, and in their family, 4 of the sisters have already turned up dead, so they believe that there's a curse on this family. And this girl, one of the girls, is kind of feeling like there's more to the story that meets the eye, so there's a lot of mystery and intrigue and fairy tale-esque things. And it was one of those books that I could not put down. At one point, like, we were staying really consistently, like, together, and then at one point I just was like, you're gonna hit a point where you just cannot put the book down. And it was really, really good. I gave it 4.5 stars. I think Kendra gave it 5 stars. So it was definitely a book that was worth checking out for both of us. While I was doing that, I was also listening to an audiobook through Libro FM. I have a link down below for it. It's really awesome because I believe it costs exactly the same thing as Audible. So if you've been using your Audible account, this one is so much better because I believe it's, like I said, I believe it's the same price. You get your first month free, and basically your money goes to local independent bookstores, which is so awesome because Audible, your money just goes to Audible. But to be able to support local bookstores, especially during this coronavirus and how bookstores have had to close and they're not getting the money they're normally getting, this is a phenomenal way to give back to them and such an easy way to give back to them. So like I said, my referral link is down below. You don't really have to use it because I think you get the free book anyways, but definitely go check them out. And I've used them and Hoopla, and I have to say that this system is so awesome. So that said, I listened to The Guest List by Lucy Foley, and this book, again, another phenomenal read. I'm not going to talk too much about it because I kind of saw a thing where I think that this might be Reese's new book club pick for June, which is great because I've already read it. So I definitely will talk more at length about it in that video if that's true, but just know this is a... Oh, I got so winded, I'm choking on spit. Too excited. This is about a wedding on a remote island off of the coast of Ireland. We know someone's gonna die, but it takes the entire book to figure out who's gonna die and, like, who did it. But it leads you in such a great journey, and if you listen to the audiobook, it really makes the setting come to life. And it's read like a cast, so each character has a different voice, and it's phenomenal. Like, I don't typically really love audiobooks, but this one was so good, and I gave this book 5 stars. Then I read The Sundown Motel by Simone St. James, and I read this book with Amber from Amber Eats Books. I don't think she makes videos anymore, but she does very consistently post on her Instagram, so definitely go check her out. So we read this book. We were supposed to read it in February, but things obviously spiraled out of control, so we didn't get to it in February, but we finally made it to it this month. This is my second Simone St. James book. If you know, I didn't really care for Broken Girls, but I thought that this one was going to be so much better, and it was better than the Broken Girls, but not by much. So this follows a dual timeline. We're following the past, where we're following somebody who starts working at this motel in New York. She was aiming for New York City to become an actress, but she ended up in this random town in New York, and she starts working at this motel, which is a very creepy motel. It feels like there's ghosts and things there, and she goes missing one night. And we're now following that perspective, but we're also following the future perspective, like the current now perspective of her niece, who kind of goes back to this motel because she wants to figure out what happened to her aunt. Why did she go missing? What happened? And I liked this one more than I liked Broken Girls. It had a better pacing. I had a better understanding about what was going on, but it fell to the part where there was too many mysteries going on at once. It was very predictable. I guessed the ending. And the last, like, epilogue part, like, just, like, it went in directions it didn't need to go. The last sentence of this was stupid. Just in my opinion. I'm sorry if you love this book. I know so many people love it. I could see why people love it. I was about to give it 4 stars because it was better than The Broken Girls. And I said, but if it ends in the way that I think it's going to end, and I predicted very early, like 50 pages in, I said, or not even 40 pages in, I said, if this happens, I'm going to be so mad. And it happened. So it couldn't get 4 stars from me. But it had to be better than Broken Girls. So I gave it a 3.5. But it is what it is. Maybe she's just not an author for me. Then, like I said, I was craving that historical fiction, and so I gave into City of Girls by Elizabeth Gilbert. Big chunker of a book, over 400 pages. This one takes place in the 40s. Yeah. She gets kicked out of Vassar College, and we are following her journey of her family basically sends her to live with her aunt in New York City, and her aunt she owns a theater company, so she's kind of seeing the ins and outs and the partying and the lifestyle, and obviously gets her into trouble. Lots of sex in this book. I felt like it was just basically like figuring out her sex life most of the book. It is like a woman when she's 80 telling somebody her story of in the 40s. I just felt like it could have been so much better. I really liked I really wanted more of the historicalness of it. Like, I definitely love the setting. I felt the setting, but like, this was taking place in World War II, and you didn't always remember that it was taking place during World War II because she was so caught up in her, like, sex life. Like, if that makes sense. I ended up giving it 4 stars because it was good. It just wasn't what I was expecting. So with my 4-star rating, it kind of was like not a 3, not a 5, but like it was like closer to a 3 than a 5. And I gave it 4 stars. It was fun. Then I read It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover. I told you I was going to read a Colleen Hoover, and almost all of you told me to read this one, so I got to it. And I really enjoyed this one as well. I gave it 4.5 stars. We're following our main character. She meets this guy, but we're also kind of following her timeline of when she was in high school. So we're following her currently in her high school life. And I wanted to put that over there for some reason. I'm sorry. So she is living this life. She ends up meeting a guy, and then a guy from her past comes back in. There are some intense trigger warnings for this one. If domestic violence is not for you, well, it shouldn't be for you, but you know what I mean. If that's a trigger for you, I wouldn't recommend this one, but it was heartbreaking. It could have been way more extreme than it was, so I'm kind of grateful for that because there were things that I was like on edge because I was prepared in my like predictions for what I thought was going to go down, and what I was predicting was way worse. So I'm glad that what I was predicting did not come true because this would have been insane if what I was predicting was coming true, but I gave it 4.5 stars. So glad that I picked it up. Thank you guys for all of your recommendations. Then, because I pre-ordered it, I had to read The Last Houseguest by Megan Miranda, and I'm so glad that I read this one. I ended up giving this one 5 stars. It was just like the perfect book that I just needed right then and there, especially after City of Girls taking me forever to read, and the Sundown Motel not being so great. Like, I just felt like, and then having such a hard-hitting It Ends With Us, I needed something that I could just like fly through. And this one was so good. It was so well done. I love Megan Miranda because she has such a unique way of storytelling. This one is kind of told in chunks of like time where we're following the current story and the year before. There's this woman, she lives on this island in Maine, and she befriends this girl who only comes for the summer. And so we're following the summer prior because her friend goes missing and turns up dead, and they basically declare it a suicide. But we're also following it a year later when she starts kind of putting pieces to the puzzle because she doesn't think that her friend ended up actually killing herself. Very good. I did not predict the ending. The ending 100% made sense. I hate when I like can't predict an ending and then it like turns into like something completely out of left field that doesn't make sense. This one felt like it came out of left field, but I was like, oh my god, how did I not see that coming? So to me, it was really good. I've seen hit or miss feelings about this one, but for me, it really worked for me, and I gave it 5 stars. Then I got to a book that was not on my TBR. I was not supposed to read it this month. But then I saw clues for what potentially could have been a book of the month choice for June. And I went, oh no, I should probably read this one so that way I know if I should buy that one. That's Get a Life, Chloe Brown by Talia Hibbert. I had heard that Get a Hint, Danny Brown was going to be a possible choice. It wasn't, so I read it for nothing. I gave this book 1 star. I understand why people love it, but it just did not work for me at all. We're following Chloe, and she is dealing with fibromyalgia, and she's basically somebody who doesn't really live her life too much until an event happens that kind of wakes her up into feeling like I need to get a life. She makes this list of move out of my house, do something bad, ride a motorcycle. So she moves out of her house and she ends up meeting this guy, and he's her superintendent of her building, and they kind of butt heads like crazy, but then she kind of enlists him to help her finish her list. I don't see the romance here. It just felt like a bunch of lusty teenagers. It was very crude. The F word is used way too much. Way too much. I said it in my review. I was counting at one point between 3 pages. It was used 5 times. There was one page where it was used 3 times. It just was incessant. And I didn't feel the love between them. I didn't like Chloe. She's very abrasive. Too abrasive. I understand that her fibromyalgia the way people treated her when it first happened made her kind of put up a wall. And I understand that, and I get that. But the way she was towards other people, I just couldn't stand. And I didn't find her witty. I didn't find her funny. I just found her rude. And I couldn't with that one. I'm so sorry if that's your favorite book. I don't mean to that sounded like I was bashing it. I don't mean to. I understand why people love it. It just did not work for me. Then we were reading for the book talk After Dark with Kendra and Shelby. And this month they had Cassidy. And this month we were reading My Favorite Souvenir by Penelope Ward and B. Keelan. If this doesn't speak to it, I read this on my Kindle on Kindle Unlimited, and I had to buy myself a physical copy. So that goes to show how much I loved this book. I gave this one 5 stars. It's gorgeous. I'll probably show it more in my book haul, but I loved this book. It has the perfect summer cover. This does not take place in the summer at all, but I said in my review that it felt like summer as much as this did not take place in summer. This one is following a girl. She just, a couple months prior, her fiance broke off their wedding, and she still goes on their honeymoon. She decides 2 days into their 10-day trip that she's I can't do this. I can't be on this trip by myself anymore. I need to go home. Well, so she gets rid of her hotel. She checks out, which means her room is gone. She goes to the airport and it's snowing, so she can't leave. So she tries to get back to her hotel, and they're like, sorry, you checked out. So she's trying to find a new room, but everybody's booked because the snowstorm basically has made a lot of people have to stay. And she is in this hotel, lobby, and she sees this guy, being kind of weird. And so she realizes that at one point he comes up and he's like, oh, I'm so-and-so, and she knows he's not. He says that he's Mr. Hooker. And so she comes up and she's like, oh, you saved our room. So she pretends to be his sister so that way they can have a room for the 2 nights. So it was a lot of fun. There's some traveling in here. I was crying by the end. It was a really fun read. I really enjoyed their dynamic, and I ended up obviously giving this one 5 stars. Then, you guys are going to be so proud of me. I read this beast of a book this month. This is Australia. It's an anthology of 37 short stories. I broke it up where I was reading a story a night, or if I just had a moment to myself, I would read 4 stories. So I basically just chunked it up and got to it whenever I wanted to. I ended up giving this one 4 stars because there were stories in here that I didn't necessarily like or love, but that other ones were really good. I feel like anthologies are really hard to rate. I wish I could have gone back and told myself to like, because in the back, it, like, tells you, like, the copyrights of all the stories. Like, I wish I put a star rating next to all of them, so I could have, like, averaged it out. There's stories that are going to be really for you, and then there's going to be stories that aren't for you. But for me, it was an enjoyable experience. I found some new authors that I probably want to try more books from. And I went to a really great cause with the wildfires and the firefighters and wildlife in Australia. So I really enjoyed this one, and it was a nice little change of pace. Then we got my Reese Witherspoon pick, which was the Henna Artist by Elka Joshi. I have an entire video reviewing this one, like all of her picks this month. Not this month, this year. This one is a historical fiction novel set in India, and we're following a woman who has recently left her husband. Not recently, it's been like 13 years since she left her husband. She leaves her husband, and now it's 13 years later, and her husband kind of refines her and brings along a sister she didn't know she had. And she, at this point, was kind of an up-and-coming henna artist. She was getting very popular, and basically the effects of her sister coming to stay with her and what that has done to her life. And just trying to be a woman, trying to be a strong, independent woman during this time, because it takes place in the 1950s. It was really interesting. I gave it 4 stars. Like I said, I have an entire video. I will try to, like, link it up in the cards above so you can get more information about it, but it was an interesting read. 4 stars. Then another book that I had to read this month due to my read a book that I pre-ordered. I pre-ordered this at the end of March. It got here at the end of March. Got here like March 31st or something like that, so I basically gave myself April and May to read it, and that is We Are the Wildcats by Siobhan Vivian. I ended up giving this book 4 stars. It was one of those books where, like, I wasn't loving it while I was reading it, but I feel like it had a good message and it was fun. Like, I feel like this book would have made an awesome movie. This is about a bunch of girls, and they are retrying out again for their field hockey team. Their coach makes them try out every year. They're a very good team. They're better than all the other teams in their school. But last year they lost the championship, which was kind of taking a toll on them. They thought their coach wasn't going to come back. But he ends up coming back, and every first night after, like, the end of tryouts, like, they have a scrimmage the next day, so they have a, like, preemptive, like, pump up party, and after that, like, the coach will leave the party, and then the girls kind of have, like, an initiation night, and this initiation night is kind of retaken over by their coach, and we kind of learn that he's not the nicest guy. And we're we're following a couple of the different girls throughout the night. And like I said, I feel like it would have made a better movie. It reminded me of the movie, like, Sleepover, if you've seen that. It's really old. Probably dating myself with that. But yeah, it was fun. I don't think that it'll be for everybody. I know I've seen some mixed reviews for it, but I kind of enjoyed it. I feel like I wish that there was more justice in the end. I wanted a little bit something more from the ending, because the ending was kind of justice-y, but it felt like you can't actually do that, so I don't know if that actually worked out for them or not. So I kind of wanted a little bit more. So I ended up giving it 4 stars. I don't regret reading it. It just wasn't the best read. Then I read The Library of Legends by Janie Chang. I read this with a buddy group read over on Instagram through Mama Lee Ellen's Book Nook. She had the option to read The Book of Longing or this one, and so I chose this one. And this takes place in 1937 in China, and they are currently going through their own civil war at this point, but they are also getting attacked by Japan. So these people are in a college, where, like, our main character is at this school, and basically it's not safe for them to stay at this school anymore. And she was supposed to go off to Shanghai, but there was a whole bombing thing, and the college just feels like they have to take care of their students. So they make a 1,000-mile trek through China, walking, and they're also carrying these books, which are called the Library of Legends, which have, like, the Chinese folklore and tales. And they're split up amongst, like, 100 and something books, and each student has to carry one with them. I found this one to be interesting. I ended up giving it 3.5 stars. It does have a fantasy element in here because of the myths and the stories. It's basically this one girl she could kind of see real myths. She doesn't know it yet. But so there's like real life mythology kind of going on at the same time, which to me, I didn't know that going into it, so I wasn't 100% keen on it. Then I was really bought into it, but then the ending felt kind of flat to me. For a book that takes place during World War II, it didn't always feel like, not World War II. Is this World War II? I don't remember. I don't think so. Or like the beginnings of it, probably. But for a book that was taking place in the middle of war, it often didn't feel like that because the students were still learning. They were still taking classes while they were traveling through war zones. But it brought up a lot of conversation. So it was definitely a really good story to read with a group. We have our final discussion tonight, actually. So I'm interested to see what people have to say about the ending. I feel like people are very either emotionally tied to this or they're not. So I'm excited to see what people have to say. But for me, it was a 3.5. I feel like the ending, I see why it ended the way it did, but if it ended the way I wanted, I would have given it 4 stars. Then I read The Ride of a Lifetime by Robert Iger. This was my nonfiction book for the month, and he was the CEO of Disney for the past 15 years. I did not rate this one just because I tend to not really rate nonfiction to begin with, but this one was kind of like a mix of a memoir and a business like leadership story, because we were learning how to be a good leader by seeing all the things that he went through in his life. So we follow him when he starts working for ABC all the way until he retires, pretty much. And it was a really interesting story because I didn't know much about him to begin with, but like just getting to see like the ins and the outs and what he had to go through to even become CEO and how much we can like relate to like what we're going through now. Like I thought it was really funny. At one point he mentioned something because he was supposed to retire a long time ago. So he said, it felt like it was the right time to move on, but life doesn't always go the way that you expect it will. Things happen that you can't possibly anticipate. The fact that I'm still running the company as I write this is a statement to that. Much more profoundly, so are the events of the week of Shanghai. So I just thought it was funny that he was going to retire and then things happened that made him not retire. And then again, he retired and now he's back still working for Disney because of coronavirus. So it just was like really interesting to see how this could still relate, even though he wrote this last year, like what's going on in the world. I did find his tips for leadership really interesting because even as a teacher and not somebody in business, there were things that I could definitely relate to, like with dealing with parents or dealing with students. So I found that I was able to take things away, but there were a lot of things that were just a lot of the business, a lot of the name dropping. I was kind of like, who are you talking about? Who are they? I don't know. So it was a fun book. I'm probably not the target audience for this. My review that I wrote kind of makes it sound like I didn't like this book, but I did like it. I'm not the target audience for it, so I probably didn't get everything out of it that other people will. Then, 2 more to go, guys. I'm almost done. I'm sorry. This video was so long. Then I read Tightrope by Amanda Quick. This is the 3rd book in the Burning Cove series. I pre-ordered Close Up this month, and it already got here. So I felt like I should probably read 3 before 4, and this kind of like, if I don't read Close Up next month, like I'm not going to sweat it because I read this one, so it like feels like I at least tried. So this book takes place in the 1930s. Each book kind of follows its own storyline, but it is nice to read them in order because there are characters from previous books that make appearances in the next one, so it is kind of nice to kind of have a background knowledge of the characters that they're talking about, but the main character is always like a completely new person. So I highly recommend you read them in order if you're going to read them in order. I do like that this is a historical fiction, but it has romance, but it also has mystery. It kind of almost has like a sci-fi-ish element, and like technology is really talked about in this one. This one is probably my least favorite of the 3 so far. We're following a woman who is a tightrope artist, and she was almost murdered 6 months prior. So she comes to Burning Cove kind of to start her life over again. She's running an inn, and she has somebody staying at her inn. He's an inventor, and she goes to see his invention show, and his robot kills him. So we're trying to figure out the whole ordeal of this mystery. There's a couple different things going on because when she was almost killed, there's another guy kind of involved. So there's a lot of different mysteries and things going on within this book. So it got a little muddled a little bit. So it wasn't the most exciting. I found the other two to be more page turners than this one was. This one's still a super fast read. I started it one night and I was like, oh, I'm just going to start it. And then I looked down and I was 200 pages in. So they read really, really quickly. But this one was probably my least favorite. Love the setting. Burning Cove, if you didn't know, also is supposed to be like where Hollywood people get away. So it kind of still has that Hollywood vibe and mobsters and that kind of feeling. So that is something that Amanda Quick does very, very well. But just not my favorite in the series. Then the last book I read was the AntiVirginity Pact by Kate Wismer, and she is a booktuber here on BookTube. But if you haven't watched her videos, you need to check her out. She's got 2 channels. She's got her, I can't remember if it's Katie or Kate Wismer for her kind of vlogging channel, and like her like talking about what she eats and exercising and all that is one channel. But she's also got Kate's Book Date, which is her other channel. And I love both of them very, very much. She came out with a poetry collection about 2 years ago, I think, at this point, or a year ago. And now she's self-publishing this one as well. I think it's really fun to watch her because she is so driven. She has such a great work ethic that, like, it just inspires you so much to want to, like, go do your own thing. But I really wanted to check out this book for her because I just wanted to support her because I know nothing about poetry, so I didn't really do anything with her poetry novel, but I'm really excited that she is publishing some full-length novels now. This one can be kind of controversial, and I'm going to start with that. She's unfortunately gotten a lot of hate recently for it by people who haven't even read the book, which is super frustrating for me to see that happen to her. This is a book about a girl who her father is a preacher, and she's an atheist. She doesn't believe it. She knows it's not a stage. She's had her doubts since she was 12, and now she's finally come to the terms that she just doesn't believe what her family believes in. And in the very beginning of the book, she signs like this. She's drunk with her friend, and she signs this pact that they're going to lose their virginity before they graduate college, which is like, not graduate college, graduate high school, which is kind of like this storyline that happens everywhere. Like American Pie is based on that. Like, it's a classic thing. But one day her pact gets out, and it really has an awful effect on her life and the spiraling downfall of this. And a lot of the message of this story is kind of standing up for yourself, letting yourself have your own belief system, and that's being okay. And just seeing how this, like having this like strict religious background, how stifling that can be for some people. This does have a ton of trigger warnings. She starts off her book listing them all. Sexual assault, animal abuse. The animal abuse is very little. I was worried about that too, but it actually wasn't too bad. Just like the religious shaming. There's a lot of them that she definitely warns you about beforehand. And in the beginning, I felt like it was one of those things where it was just kind of like this YA novel contemporary that I've kind of stayed away from recently, and that because I don't enjoy it. Just isn't something that I 100% enjoy anymore. And I was like, it's okay, like it's all right, it's fine. I could definitely relate to a lot of things, and then by the end, it just really kicks you in the feelings. I cried at least 3 times from the halfway point to the end. It's very emotional. It's very dark and very gritty. So I know it's not going to be for everyone, but it definitely was such a hard-hitting read that I think can be very important to other readers. I saw myself in a couple different instances where I was like, oh, I could definitely relate to that. Oh, I can see that. So 100% go into this thinking of your own triggers and your own personal thoughts, but keeping an open mind. And for those people who are going after her, it makes me sad. Makes me really sad. She wrote this story, and it's a good one. I gave it 4 stars. She does not deserve to be getting hate for this book at all. At all. So I'm just going to keep spreading the awareness of this book because She does not deserve this hate because she wrote a very well written book. To be 23 and having a book like that, like, it felt like I picked up a, like, any of my, like, YA books. Like, it felt like a normally, regularly published book. So I give her so much credit. I cannot wait to see what she writes next. Definitely check this one out if you think that you can handle it, or if you want to give it a try. I highly recommend you try it out. But yeah, those are all 16 books that I read this month. Sorry that this video is so long. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you guys really, really soon. Bye, everybody.